Phil Heath. What's up, Phil?
Good.
Back on stage.
Oh.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
They got chairs for us, but I like to stand. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
that's no problem.
got some energy flowing here, Phil.
Yeah, it's a little different. Normally I'm like half dead, getting ready for the Olympia, and now I get to chat it up with Bob, so that's really nice. How are you guys doing?
Woo!
Okay.
So how's it feeling? Listen, you haven't been on the stage since the Olympia. So,
Oh, here we go.
yeah. Oh, you know I gotta dig right in, man.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
So I'm going to take us back, Phil. We're back at the Orleans Arena. We're on the Joe Weider stage, all too familiar. It's down to the wire once again. Now, you and I have been down this road many, many years now. And for the past 7 years, it's been the same outcome. You and me, center circle, after you given the big speech and all that jazz. And you were looking to make some history here with number 8. Very unfamiliar ground, obviously, as everybody knows, only 2 people that got that title, and actually we got both of those guys here today. But you were going to be that third guy in there, the elusive third man, the grassy knoll, the whole thing, Phil. But it didn't happen, and you're used to my voice coming out there and doing that big dramatic pause that you hate before the big announcement.
I think everyone hates it. There's been so many people that have probably lost years off their life, especially the athletes. Every year that he would be up there, Bob has the sheet, obviously. He knows who's winning. And he takes, like, it feels like a 5-minute pause.
Oh, it is.
And it pretty much is. So, and then we talk on tour every year, and I'm like, Bob, can you please stop doing this crap? And he's like, come on, man, it's a suspense and this and that. You know, I'm like, but I'm hungry. I got stuff to do. Let's get it on. So, go ahead.
Well, needless to say, I painstakingly draw it out. Every year, for 7 years, I've drawn out even longer just for you. Don't thank me now. But this year, there was that long pause, and all of a sudden, it wasn't your name, bro. Now, you have never experienced this, actually, in your career. What did that moment feel like?
Okay, so I have a question for everyone in here, and I would really like for you guys to participate. Do you guys want me to answer this question as Mr. Olympia or Phil Heath?
Phil Heath.
Okay, so
Overwhelming Phil Heath.
Okay, so there is no politically correctness. So you guys are out here on your social media and stuff and doing all this craziness, I'm giving it to you straight. Throughout the years of being up here on the Mr. Olympia stage, winning shows, it's an incredible feeling. Your life flashes before your eyes. Every line in the road, kind of like from this high to this high, led to that moment. So, the first one's always the best one. The second one, then, the third, and then things start shifting a little bit. You start questioning yourself. You start asking yourself, like, man, I got fan base, I got this, but some people are tired of seeing me win and this and that. And now you're getting the whole Tom Brady, like, I hate Phil, but I love Phil. They're laughing because they know it's true.
Half of them hate you.
Right. And then they say, wait, but I really like what you do, but I just want to see this guy get it too, because I see how much fun you're having. So I remember winning number 6, and I remember being like, wow, now I'm starting that uncharted territory. We're talking about legends, right? Dwayne Yates. Then that 7th one, it was like, we were here at the Arnold Classic, right? And winning that 7th one, it meant a lot because, I remember seeing Arnold that year, and he came by the booth, and I looked him in the eye and I said it would be an honor to be able to win that contest, to be tied with something. Because he's an epitome of greatness. I mean, he's done a lot of things, obviously we all know, his track history. But going into 18, it's just like, what the heck, man? A lot of pressure, a lot of this, a lot of that. So when we're up on that stage, kind of had a feeling like something was different. The air was different, everything felt different. And when I was standing there, I thought, it's time to embrace whatever happens. What I mean by that is, when he said, and knew, as much as that hurt, I knew it was coming, and I felt like, okay, there may be a shift. Just take a moment and look around. So I did. And that crowd erupted and stuff like that. And it wasn't like I was taking it personal as far as like I thought I would. I thought I would be like, man, these guys hate me. That's why they're cheering for him. At the end of the day, I mean, those same people that cheered for him voted for Rulli as the people's champion. So they were just happy. So I said, at the end of the day, I've always said on the Olympia stage, you don't have to be a fan of me, but be a fan of bodybuilding. So those people were fans of bodybuilding that night. So I looked around and I was just like, get a real good view of this. And I did. And before I walked off, you know, I didn't know what to do because like you said, this is uncharted territory. I don't know what a second place person does after they've lost. I'm like, where do I go? Who do I shake hands with? Like,
Tough problem to have, isn't it?
but this,
I don't know what these losers do. I've never been in this situation.
yeah, I'm like, a silver necklace, like, don't really like that, but okay.
Breaking up the set, man. Yeah.
Right? But one major thing. You know, you see a lot of athletes, you see a lot of celebrities and stuff, right? You know, they thank God and higher power, this and that, when things go well. So I took a moment, went to the side, got on one knee, and I did my own timeout. Because I remember wishing that I would be not only on the Olympia stage, but wishing that I could be NPC USA champion, wishing that I could win a Colorado State show, wishing that someone would even give me a chance to be sponsored, and then end up on the covers of Flex magazine and muscular development and all this stuff, traveling around the world meeting a ton of people. I never would have thought of that in 2003 when I did my first NPC shoot. So yeah, I took that time and said, well, maybe this is my time to leave, I don't know, like, but you're gonna absorb what's going on. And thank yourself and thank your body for what you've been able to accomplish, because no one in their right mind can take 7 Sandow's away. So then I walked off, and you know, the rest is kind of a blur. I'm still, you know, it's kind of like one of those things like, you know, how do you address this? But I will say this, I love bodybuilding, it hasn't changed. I'm in the gym, working hard, having fun, and I'm very honored and privileged to be up here today because I believe this is the first time I've ever done something like this on a Sunday at the Arnold Classic. So, you know, that was the answer, long-winded answer for what Bob's saying. But yeah, I mean, it felt weird. It still is weird, but that's part of history. You know, it ain't always gonna go your way. But I can say one thing, in this decade, I'm the most winningest guy around. And no one can take that away. And I have to acknowledge that to myself. I have to thank my body every day for being able to put up with all that stress. And I will give myself that much of a pat of saying, I'm the first Mr. Olympia in the social media era. And that, my friends, is a very stressful job. It's a very stressful job. But it's very thankful, and I'm very appreciative of it because it still allows me to kind of be that pioneer for the next group that now will have to deal with the same cheers and boos and this and that and the other, and then you realize, in all, you guys just want entertainment and you want to see the best out of us. And I can appreciate that, and it's my job to continue to push myself and all the other athletes to go after their dreams, kick some butt, and say thank you to all the people that support us.
Phil, appreciate that. Phil, you mentioned yourself. Like a true champion in defeat, there's much humility in victory, and I think that was appreciated by the fans that were in attendance. That you conducted yourself like a professional, of course. There was no theatrics, there was no games. It was just you taking a moment to reflect, and you gave props, fully on our seminar the next day to Sean Roden. That said, Phil, appreciate you coming out because this is great to have you here finally. I'm going to introduce another guy. Now, this is the guy you actually took the title from. All right. Also happens to be a very good friend of yours, ladies and gentlemen. 4-time Olympia champ, a cut above, Jay Cutler. Woo! What's up, champ?
How we doing?
We're doing good. You know this guy? You ever met Phil?
Sir.
Jay, Phil? Jay, I mean, you're a regular here every year. The fans love it. They love when you come out here. You're still in as much demand now as you ever were when you were the reigning and current Mr. Olympia. So how is it traveling the globe now and still seeing these lines of fans coming up to see it?
It's my 24th year this year.
Wow.
And, I was champion here a few times, and I was blessed to be able to do that. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. It's a true honor to be here and be part of this actually on Sunday with all this talent that's up here. And you know, we appreciate everyone coming out every year because I know a lot of people travel from long distance and they wait in many, many long lines. And it's a huge opportunity. The expos have grown tremendously. When bodybuilding shows were just bodybuilding shows without expos, and now you can interact with all of us, and it's just really cool that people take the time to do that. And I don't think I'd wait 10 minutes in a line for anyone. So it's pretty awesome when people wait for hours on end to see us and be able to tell us their stories and tell us why they're here. I hear that every time I do events, and we're just blessed to be a part of that.
Jay, we've done many, many interviews over the years. You had a kind of a different rise to the top. Most people kind of burst on the scene like Phil Heath, who just boom, he was in the winner's circle and stayed there for a lot of years. You actually built your fan base by losing the Olympia every year. And he knows what I mean by that. Yeah, thank you. This is hardcore, man. And well, Jay knows what I mean by that because we've talked about this many times. But I mean, listen, you had the great Ronnie Coleman in front of you, man. And this guy was,
that was kind of the piece.
Yeah, that was the missing. I left that out till the end. That was the big finish. Ronnie Coleman was there, and everybody knows Ronnie, man. In his day, he just couldn't beat this guy. Nobody could beat this guy. But you built your fan base every single year by being the runner-up, and your fan base just built and built and built until you eventually beat the great Ronnie Coleman, and you got that title.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge when you get up there and you compete. And I always truly went into every contest like I was going to win. And unfortunately, there was a big roadblock there, and I was fortunate to be number 2 in the world for, unfortunately 4 times the same guy. So for me, it was just, it was always an experience, and I just felt honored to be able to be on that stage from day one. I mean, I was second to last on my first Mr. Olympia, 15 out of 16. Slowly moved way up, and it just took me a little longer to get to that first place title. And of course, I held it for 2 years, and I lost it, came back and won it. And I'm just left my piece in history now, and still continue to do that. And I respect all the athletes up there, and there was always opportunity for all of us. I think it's any day anyone can win any show. Just like last night we saw on this stage, and Brandon was victorious, but I mean, even the predictions, there was 4 or 5 guys that maybe could have won that title. And Phil's won 7. I mean, he's kind of written himself in history, and I expected that from him, which is great. But with Ronnie, we both Phil and I talked about those days of, we respected him so much, and it was always an obstacle, but it was great to overcome that and eventually be, winning 4 times.
Jay, a lot of the ex-champs, former champs, however you want to put it, they kind of reinvent themselves. They get out there and work in different ways within the community. You're still really out there as Mr. Olympia. I mean, people still come up and you're still Jay. You still, look like you can step on stage with just a little bit of training, and you keep yourself in great condition. Even though you do have many business ventures outside of bodybuilding and within it, you're still kind of looked at as the Olympia champion, and I think that's pretty cool that you've been retired now 5 years. Yeah, it's been 5 years. And I think it's pretty cool that you're out there still, and you're still a champ.
You know what I love? I love the business. I love fitness. My passion was obviously lifting weights and being a bodybuilder since day one. I started 18. And I never imagined coming from a small town that I would ever end up where I am at now in Las Vegas and being able to travel the world. And I became the ambassador, and I continue to just do what I love to do, and I want to motivate people. And I think a lot of social media now is very positive, so we can communicate a lot easier with the fans, and we're not just limited to bodybuilding books that display our talents, right? So it's truly an honor. I mean, like I said, it's our job, it's our duty, it's what we did. We did it at the highest level. People would look at us as role models, which is unexpected when you first start training. I just wanted to be a guy that landed my first muscle fitness cover, and that was it for me. And then eventually become the best and be able to now motivate everyone, even people sitting in this room, all ages. It's awesome.
Jay, you just kind of caught the social media as it was coming up, and now you're a master of it. You're all over the social media. Phil kind of came right into it, and he also was very active on it. I just started on MySpace last week, so I'm still catching up a little bit, but I'll get there. But Jay, I'm so glad to be able to keep out, and we're going to hit some more Mr. Olympia champs. I want a big hand for the champ. This next man needs no introduction. He's simply the greatest of all time, 8-time Olympia champion. Yeah, buddy. Wait. Please, you want to sit around here? Are you good? Or yeah, so you got chairs and everything. We spared no expense here at the Arnold. Not a young man. Come on, man. You're still 55 years old. Don't look a day over 54, buddy.
Actually, I'm 54.
So I was right. Okay. Champ, it's great to see you once again. Obviously, we see the walkers. You've been in a wheelchair in a bit. It has been tumultuous, to say the least. Actually, I was just here last year that you were going under another surgery to correct the surgery before that. Now you've had 2 since then.
I've had 4 surgeries since last year, so I just had one 5 weeks ago. So just call me the surgery king.
Yeah, you got that down, man. You're gonna be the 8-time surgery king. Actually, you're over 8 surgeries now.
Right around 12 right now.
Well, nice thing is you can't knock a good champ down, but you still got size. We were just talking a little while ago. You haven't been in the gym in months.
About 6 months now. So still hanging in there though.
How about this guy looking like this? He hasn't been in the gym in 6 months, but
6 whole months. It's a long time.
it sure is.
It's almost a lifetime.
Well, the cool thing is, Ronnie, is, I mean, it hasn't stopped your traveling, and you've got your own supplement, the Ronnie Coleman Signature Series, which is doing very well. But you don't let the surgeries stop you. I mean, much like Jay, you're an ambassador of bodybuilding, and you regularly still do traveling. I don't think anybody's expecting you to do, but you do it.
Well, when you got 8 kids, wife, and other people that depend on you, you find a way to get things done.
That's better than having 8 wives and a kid. So. That's for sure.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. That's a whole different seminar. Yeah, they keep you busy. That's for sure.
Real busy.
Ronnie, one of the things I think that's pretty cool over the years, we've had many chances to talk about this. You ushered in single-handedly. You ushered in a whole era of people in the gym shouting stuff out. There ain't a gym I ever go to, and you guys do the same. You travel, train all over the world, and you'll just be in the gym in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden you'll hear, lightweight. Ronnie here? I know he travels a lot, but all your little mannerisms and things, and the buddies and all that stuff, and literally you see people in the gym doing this all the time. And I think it's pretty cool. You actually carry that over to your product line, so you actually have products called Yeah Buddy.
Yep. Lightweight. Ain't nothing but a peanut.
Nothing but a peanut. An interesting conversation when you're a kid, right? You're telling your mind, hey, can you grab me the lightweight and the ain't nothing but a peanut? What? It's the Ronnie Coleman stuff. But I think it's cool how you kind of took that and branded all that stuff with shirts, and stuff you can buy, and obviously now your signature series. It's got to be pretty good. You ever at gyms and stuff like that where you hear somebody, they don't know you're there, and you hear some of your own sayings out there?
Every now and then. I'm all over the world, so most of the time when I'm in the gym, I'm kind of focused, and either I got on headphones, I'm listening to music, I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing.
This is, Ronnie's got some great stories, and we're going to get to some more actually once we get all the champs out, but you started your bodybuilding journey for one specific reason, Ronnie. What was that?
Well, the guy told me to give me a free membership to the gym.
That's a true story. Brian Dobson, who later became your good friend and mentor in bodybuilding, the man really single-handedly responsible for getting you to the stage, because you just trained. I mean, you didn't have any aspirations of being, you didn't come up in the business, you didn't aspire to be a bodybuilder. You literally you said, look, man, if you go into a show, I'll give you a free membership.
Yep. At the time, I had just joined the police department, and I totally focused on being a police officer. I got my degree in accounting, as some people know, and I thought I was going to be an accountant because I, graduated with honors and I was real good at it. I loved it, but God had another plan for me, and I walked in the gym one day, and the guy was like, "Man, you're big. You are competing." I'm like, "No." It's like, "What?" He said, "You could be Miss Olympia one day, world champion." I'm like, "I don't know too much about Miss Olympia world champion, but I just got hired on the police department, and that's all I'm interested in doing right now." Well, after 4 days of trying to get me to compete, he finally came out and said, "I tell you what, I give you a free membership to the gym if you competed this show coming up." I'm like, "Dude, you should have you should have led with that first."
You had me at the saving $30.
Yeah, at the time I was pretty poor, so he gave me a free membership, taught me how to pose, taught me how to train as a bodybuilder, and my first show was called Mr. Texas. I was born first in overall. The rest is pretty much history.
Now, speaking of history, Ronnie, obviously, as everybody knows, you took 8 Olympia Sandals, which probably are on your mantle at home. If you were to take the 8 Ronnie Colemans that won an Olympia, okay? So all 8 of them, put them out, every version, from 98 right to the last win. Who wins?
98.
Really?
98 wins every time.
That's that's an interesting call because, well, Jay, you really would know well. this guy had a whole bunch of different looks on stage. 98 was a great look, obviously. It was probably your leanest. You were what, probably 245 or somewhere in that range. But then we saw the bigger Ronnie version a couple years later. You were about 290 pounds.
95.
What was that? 06? No, it was actually earlier. 04. 04, we saw the "Oh my God, it's coming this way" Ronnie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like that, man. I mean, the competitors didn't, but it was a different look. It wasn't a bad look. Obviously, you won the Olympia, but it's interesting. You didn't even hesitate. 98. That's your favorite.
98 above all-time favorites. All-time, easily all-time favorite.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The fact that you could actually pinpoint that quickly. Without hesitation, because like I said, there's some damn good versions in there, Ronnie. Obviously, throughout the years. Actually, a lot of people had 99. Actually, you were on this very stage, winning the Arnold, and a lot of people think that might have been your best look.
Well, it wasn't this stage, but that was a good look too. But 98 is still my favorite.
All right, Ronnie, it's great that you were able to make the trek out here. Like I said, I know it's not easy getting around, but you never let the fans down.
Oh no, wouldn't miss this for the world.
We appreciate that.
Woo!
Stay right there. Get down and check the Jay. I think he's still pissed off at you for that last show. All right, I'm looking in the wings and I'm seeing an 8-time Olympia champion. A lot of people think he's the greatest of all time. Totally awesome, Lee Haney.
Woo!
What's up, Lee?
Thanks, cool. How's everybody doing?
Yeah!
Lee, these guys all came up in the sport looking at you on the Olympia stage as the winner. Everybody's idolized you. You've always been the consummate professional, the consummate champion. Gentleman Lee, we've heard all the accolades over the years. Talk to me a little bit about Olympia championships back then versus now. You've seen, and you're still very active in the sport. You all the current champs, you follow the sport. Talk to me about your reign as Mr. Olympia versus what you see today.
Well, number one, I'm glad I didn't have to compete against any of those guys. It's an honor to be on stage with them, I love each and every one of them. And I'm amazed at where bodybuilding is now. The stage is such that everybody has room. You have bodybuilding, you got classic physique, you got physique. So it's something for everybody, no matter what they look like. In my day, it was only 4 champions, 4 pros a year. Only 4 pros. You first had to qualify maybe a national event, well, a regional event, Atlantic USA. From there I qualified for the junior nationals. From there I qualified for the nationals. From there I was qualified for the IFBB World Championship. And only when you won your class in the IFBB World Championship did you turn pro. 4 pros a year, lightweight, middleweight, light heavy, and heavyweight. So to see where bodybuilding has come from then to now is absolutely incredible. And just look how the sport has grown over the years. Here at the Arnold Classic, I never will forget, as a youngster, I know that's hard to believe, guys. Yeah, I used to be a youngster. Watching Arnold walk down the aisle, you know, I was 20 years old. And it was, I think it was at the time, was Franco Colombo won the Olympia that year. But that was back in, I think, in 1980?
81.
Yeah, 81. Absolutely incredible. Now you see that this event had over 80 sports and over 200,000 people from around the world right here in Columbus, Ohio. That's incredible. That says a lot about bodybuilding and where it is today. Now, as far as what I feel is going on in the sport right now, everything is positive. I've seen growth all over the place. And as I said earlier, there's room for everybody. That's what I love about it.
Lee, you retired in what today, and a lot of people aren't even turning pro until they were older when you retired. You were still a young man when you hung them up with 8 Olympian titles. You walked away. I mean, obviously you were healthy, you were still going. A lot of people speculate you could have won another 1 or 2 or 3. What at that point popped into your head that said, you know what, maybe it's a good time to walk away?
Well, you know, I look at it like this. As I approach the 8th Olympia, back up a little bit, when I hit the 7th, you know, nobody has ever done 7 in a row. And I never will forget having a conversation with my wife, Shirley, which has been my gift for over 36 years now. My beautiful wife, Shirley. And we had a conversation, and you know, you have to understand, Shirley was my 7th grade sweetheart. So she known me when I had nothing.
Collective sigh from the women.
That's right. And so we're having this conversation. I mean, I was the vice president of the sports club in high school. Shirley was the president. So she is a stone jock. Stone jock. She wasn't one of those little prissy things, although she was cute, but she was an athlete. And we're having this conversation. I said, well, baby, you know, I've done 7 Olympias and nobody's ever done that. You know, that's a record in itself. Do you think it's time for me to sort of bow down and to, you know, move away? She looks at me and said, what are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? Of course you got to do 7 Olympias. What's the matter with you anyway? Like, that's what my wife said.
Still the president.
Still a president. And so,
Still VP.
Exactly. So after I licked my wound, I said, okay, let's do this again.
Yes, ma'am.
But having won the 8th Olympia, I said, okay, now it's time to use my faith and establish my success in other areas. You know, you can't stay too long. Then, of course, I didn't have no more room over my fireplace. I only had enough room for 8. So I took that as a sign.
Get a bigger fireplace.
Well, hey, listen, man. When you train on the level of prepping for Mr. Olympia, and all of my brothers here can attest to that, your body goes through some crazy changes. And I have people say, well, Lee, you ever thought about coming back? No. It's the last thing. Dorian had that conversation with me. Lee, well, why not have another one more time? I said, hey, leave me alone. I'm going fishing.
Fishing's a lot easier.
A lot easier. It's traumatizing to the body. You know, any athlete on the top level like that, at the end of the day, they still lick their wounds. Although the fans never see that.
Did you contemplate 9?
No.
Or was that like, okay, I'm doing 8, win or lose?
That was the end of the conversation. 8 was it. And after I'd done 8, I walked out with my head high. I was undefeated. I had accomplished what I wanted to do. So it was time to use my faith in other areas. I had 2 kids that I needed to raise. You know, I had to be about turn into a baseball dad. You know, a cheerleader for my daughter. You know, going back and forth to ballet, tap, dance, piano recital. Hey man, it was another whole world out there, and I enjoyed that.
You've added another title to your impressive resume as grandfather now.
Yeah, grandfather, I'm changing diapers now. I was doing every
Slide that sand out over for some Pampers over there.
That's right.
Well, Lee, we talked about Jay earlier and how he's still out there being the ambassador and all that. I think you were the original ambassador as it comes to body. We had lots of champions, but not every champion is an ambassador. I think there's a distinct difference between that. And you were, in my opinion, like the first ambassador, past Arnold, you know, obviously Arnold's Arnold. But you were the first ambassador to kind of go out there and preach the good word of bodybuilding. And it was literally like a sermon. You know? I mean, you talk about, you love bodybuilding, you still love bodybuilding to this day.
You know something, there's, you know, let me say this. When I was 17 years old, I got on my knees one night before going to bed and I prayed and I said, Lord, if you see fit to make me the best at this sport I love so much, I'll go before the world and give you the praise and the glory. That was my prayer when I was 17 years old. Won the Teenage America the first time around. Won the Nationals the first time around. Won the IBB World Championship the first time around. I was humble at my first Olympia. I placed third, and my cowboy waxed my butt.
Slacker.
Yeah, slacker. But 8 Mr. Olympias in a row, that's impossible. That's impossible. To win it one time is impossible. So I know without a doubt that with God's hand upon my life, as I told him I would use my gift and impact the world for good, that is what this whole thing is all about. Because every good and every perfect gift is from above, according to James, chapter 1, verse 17. I know I'm the servant.
He knows his stuff, man. Versus chapter, not accident. He's a different good book that's competitive these days, man. So now he's also headed the title of author. Fit at any age, exercise to stimulate, not annihilate.
There you go.
That was the first saying I ever remember that you came out with. That it just went across the every gym. Stimulate, don't annihilate. Stimulate, don't annihilate. But those words spoke volumes to bodybuilders that were coming up, because bodybuilders inherently would always just beat themselves into the ground. And you were preaching very early on. Look at that's not bodybuilding. Okay, that's body destroying.
Exactly. You know, I saw a young man a few weeks ago. He was doing bent laterals. He had his neck jammed against the incline bench in his laterals. And I looked at him and said, you know what? That's a nice way to snap your neck, young man, youngster. Oh man, he got all into his feelings. So he didn't know where I was. He said,
That's even funnier.
You know what he said? Sir, I wish you would have told me in private. I said, boy. And all the other guys in the gym said, ooh. I said, look, young man, you need to get some knowledge. Learn how to train. As a matter of fact, I told him, listen, this upcoming Saturday, March the 9th, I have a workshop on training and nutrition where you can get some knowledge so you don't do stupid stuff like tear yourself up. And when I say knowledge, I learned from everything that Arnold wrote, Franco Colombo wrote, Robert Robinson wrote. I am who they are. That's where I got the knowledge from. I didn't just pull something out of the sky. Like a lot of times athletes look at Facebook and or YouTube and pull up some of these bush leg gurus who haven't won the Creekwater USA, and all of a sudden they give you a program. We've been there, done that. We know what's happening.
I think it's hilarious if this is that scene unfolds that this young kid is looking at you. He don't know who you are. You know, he's got Google, but I mean, he can't get to it yet. But he doesn't know that you're an 8-time Olympian champion. You got shoes older than him.
Yeah.
Lee, talk to me about your book. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm sure these people want to go buy one right now. Where can they get one, Lee?
Well, you know something, this book is being sold through Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Kobo. It's a book that talks about training to stimulate, not annihilate. You know, you have to learn how to change gears. For instance, we talk about functional training, functional nutrition, age management, supplementation. You always want to think in the way of managing age when you're training, at any age. Because if you don't, you could tear yourself up. So you gotta know how to massage your training program. You know, so at the end of the day, after your journey as an athlete, you still have your systems intact. You know, for instance, when I trained Evander Holyfield, that was functional training. But it was a function to hit anaerobic threshold training for 3 minutes and recover for 1. And Okay, your pulse rate is hitting 200 beats. So that's crazy stuff. But that was his functionality for what he needed to do. So at this point in my life, it's about managing age, keeping my joints healthy, and feeling good. And that should be a thought that all of us should take when it comes to training and nutrition. Be smart, because at the end of the day, you still want to be functioning well and healthy at the latter part of your journey.
You know what the key to staying married 36 years is? He was smart enough to mention his wife Shirley on the book.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Still the president.
You're the president, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Haney, the one and only. Hey, it's Clint. What's up, buddy? Ladies and gentlemen, he's never won the Olympia, but he's a hell of a guy. Arnold Silos? Give it to me. Can I get that? Is that a 2X? Very cool. Thanks, Clint. Got some lovely party gifts for you. All right. Who do we got back there? I can't see with the light. Oh, well, here's a guy who was literally on this stage just last night. Give it up here, Arnold Classic Champ 2019, Brandon Curry. And that jacket fits good, doesn't it?
Yeah, man, feels good.
Brad, it's 24 hours ago, you were right here with the governor, right there with you, you know, just giving you congrats and new Arnold Classic champion. How does it feel?
Man, it's I can't be honest, it hasn't fully hit me yet, but I appreciate all the love, guys. I appreciate all the support. Of course, social media's going crazy. I got to catch up, but it's great, man. Great experience.
Well, I think this was absolutely the best Brandon Curry I've ever seen on stage. You went toe-to-toe with William Bonac. And he's tough. I mean, obviously he was the defending champion, so it wasn't going to be an easy battle. And head judge Steve Weinberger put you guys through the paces over and over and over. So you had to know it was close.
Yeah, I mean, I figured Steve was going to make us work. I knew coming into the show it was going to be a battle between me and William, of course. So, you know, I did my homework and I presented the best packages I thought I could do to take them down for this Arnold Classic.
So how did it feel? You get announced the champ, and then here comes Arnold.
Well,
And here you are.
Well, you know, it's not my first rodeo with that experience. Two other experiences, one in Brazil, one in Australia. So I was just happy to see him again, and he was definitely in good spirits, man. It was it's surreal, you know, winning this title was definitely surreal. It's the big boy, so.
I thought it was a pretty cool moment. We're actually going to recreate that moment right here, Brandon. So, because guess what we got here? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger. Guys, Arnold, guys. Welcome to your own show.
I always wanted to sit next to the Haney. Especially when the mic works. Oh, now it's working. Very nice.
We got everything covered here, don't you worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
it's called the Arnold Classic, right?
Right.
Not the Arnold Failure.
No, you've been doing this many, many years, and this year, with no exception to the rule, bigger and better. You can see we're at capacity here. These people absolutely just love the Arnold weekend. It's expanded the globe now. You've expanded to, this is the biggest sporting event in the world.
It's the biggest sports and fitness event in the world, without any doubt. And also the biggest expo. We have sold 1,300 booths, and it's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, all those companies that manufacture things that has to do with fitness, if it is equipment, if it is tanning stuff, clothing stuff, and all food supplements. I mean, it's really amazing that everyone comes together here, and you know, and I think it's just the greatest way of inspiring people. It's all part of our fitness crusade, because it's not just about us. and about the guys winning, the Arnold Classic and who's the most muscular man, but it's also about each of those 80 sports. We have 80 sports represented here, and that just came from ballroom dancing. Not that I was ballroom dancing, don't misunderstand. I could do the waltz.
You did some ballroom dancing.
That's right, yeah, and the
Did some
tangos,
waltz.
that's right, exactly. I can't, but I mean, this was really professional ballroom dancing where I just came from, and it's really amazing, So we have all these different sports, 80 different sports that are all in one way or the other inspire people. And this is what we want to do, is inspire the world to go and exercise. That's why we took it in all the different continents, all over the world, the Arnold Classic. And it's just, it's for me, just such a great honor and pleasure to produce this show and to see where we came from in 1976 when we had 5,000 spectators at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium at the Mr. Olympia, and now we have 250,000 people coming through the 3 days of this convention, of this expo. So it's really extraordinary what it has grown into. And and then for me to sit here with all these great champions, we have, how many Mr. Olympias are all there together? You're probably 34.
27.
No, but there's like the two of them is 8, right? 8 Mr. Olympias.
27.
27?
I got this.
Okay, you got it.
Oh, yeah. That's, well, of course we count Arnold's separately. Let's.
What there's
Come on,
two that are 8 and 2 that are 7, so just after that, that's 30 right there, right? How I put it, and then of course we have, you have won, how many did you win? You won 4, so you have 34.
34.
So you have 34. So there you have it.
How many bodybuilders does it
Franco,
take?
when Franco comes out, he got 36.
That's right. Now we got Franco there.
Exactly. Well, he said, like you said last year, which was really interesting. He said to me, he says, there's 3 types of people in the world. Those that can count, those that can't. That was his line last year. So I don't want to say anything about your counting, but you're a good moderator.
I got that going for me.
Exactly, absolutely. And we should not discount the Arnold Classic winner 3 times, right? He won 3 times the Arnold Classic. So he's going to go over all the continents. He's going to be already yesterday on stage. He's going to travel around to all the continents and win all the Arnold Classics. And then for that, there's a special prize for that, of course.
We may be adding another Olympia to that count. This guy this year. Because I tell you what,
Never know.
he's got a great chance of taking that. Who thinks Brandon Curry could be Mr. Olympia this year?
But it's really interesting. When you watched him compete yesterday, bodybuilding is like in every sport. It's very hard to get the straight 10 the day of the competition. You always, it's very rarely that you're exactly on the spot and then you hit that sweet spot. And that's what you did yesterday. You were like the only one that was out there that looked like 100% on for that hour. The body was hard as hell, it was muscular, you were lean, you had all the fluid was gone, everything was just right, perfect. And the posing, his confidence, his mental attitude, everything was right. And you just don't hit it that well all the time. I remember times when I was in the Mr. Universe contest and I said to myself, man, if I would have just trained harder, man, if I would have just gotten ready a little bit more fluid and done more water, if I would have just done a little bit more posing or something, there's always something off. And sometimes you hit it just perfect. And so he yesterday hit it perfect. And I think that all of us went through that, where you just feel like, and that as you could see yesterday, everyone is so in such fantastic shape that if one is off by a little bit, you can be dropping down to 4th place, even though you could deserve to win that very same moment if you would have been on. So it's all about being on at that particular moment, because every one of those competitors was so fantastic yesterday. There was like 5, 6 of them that could have won if they would have been on. So that's just the way it works.
Arnold, I asked Ronnie Coleman when he came out, which version of Ronnie would beat all the other versions? I'd like to ask you the same. which version of Arnold, your 7 Olympian victories? If we put all 7 Arnolds on stage, who wins? What year?
Well, I think this is very hard to say because my favorite was 1974. Because in 1974 I weighed 246 pounds, which in today's days is not much. But in those days, there was, Lou Ferrigno was heavier. He weighed around 260 or something like that year. But I mean, he was also taller. But I mean, I weighed 246, and I felt like full and pumped and everything like this. And the following year, in 1975, I did stay hungry in the middle. And so I had to go down, in order to get the job, I had to get down to 210 pounds. Otherwise, Bob Rafelson would not have hired me to play the part. Because he was worried that I would look too enormous compared to Sally Fields, because Sally Fields only weighed 100 pounds. And Jeff Bridges weighed like 160 or something like that. So he just felt like it would be better for my acting career and for the story if I'm down to 210 and still look muscular. And so that's what I did. But then when we were finished shooting in beginning of July, it was not enough time to October, when there was the Mr. Olympia in South Africa, to gain that body weight back quality-wise in that short period of time. I would have needed for that another 2 months or 3 months to get up to 246. So I got up to 233, 234, something like that, on the day of the competition. And so I was lighter. I was ripped and everything like this, but I was lighter. So some people thought that was the perfect body. To me, I felt I was too light. I didn't feel comfortable in the competition. I felt I was good enough to win, but I didn't feel like this was my best year because I didn't have the time to recuperate. 247, yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, in all formidable physiques, Arnold, take me back to Lee Haney's 8th Olympia win. Now, obviously, he ties you at 7, a record that a lot of people think would never have been equaled. And here comes Lee in a row and puts 7, and now he's actually going to go to beat the record. You obviously find out that Lee wins the Olympia and gets that 8th Sandow. What were your feelings at that time? How did that strike you?
Well, you have 2 feelings. One of them is you feel like, okay, someone has now broken your record. And records are yet to be broken, obviously, so I understand that. But still, inside of you, there's a part that says, shit. What the hell just happened here? And, so it was one of those moments. But then there was, of course, also the moment of joy, because I have known Lee for all these years, and I have known the struggle that he went through year after year. And it is really hard to stay on top of the game, because you get injuries when you train that hard throughout the year. You cannot go too far away from your top shapes throughout the year. So you do posing exhibitions to really stay with the program and all. And I talked to him regularly, so I knew the direction he was going. And so I was very happy. The other side of me was that the better side of me was that I was very happy for Lee that he won the 8th Mr. Olympia, and I said, it could easily be that he goes to 10, because there was no stopping him at that point. And but then he retired. He felt like it was time for him to move on and all that stuff. And since then, he's been doing great work to inspire so many of the kids in his community and all this. And I'm very proud of him. He's one of those bodybuilders that has really used this platform of fame for something really good. So I'm very proud of you for your bodybuilding career and also what you've been doing since then. So you've been a great and that's always the great thing when people can look at a bodybuilding champion or any champion as far as that goes after they're finished with their career, and they feel like, wow, they really bridged over smoothly into another area. If it is to be in the business, or to be in giving back to the community, or to be a trainer and to inspire people to get healthy, to get fit, to get strong and muscular and all this stuff. So and I think this is of course I say this also because everyone up here sitting on stage, all of you are such great inspirations. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me in the gym and they say, Phil just won another Mr. Olympia, that's fantastic, you know, he's my idol and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So each one has, you know, their own idols, and this is what it's about. Because I remember, and I told the story many times, how Reg Park inspired me. And so that's why when I became Mr. Olympia and Mr. Universe, I said to myself, well, I'm here because of Reg Park. You know, and of course because of Joe Weider, and because of so many Franco Colombo and so many other people that helped me. But really, Reg Park was the one that inspired me and made me feel like it is possible for a little farm boy that lives in a factory town in Austria, that it is possible to win and to emerge as a champion. Because he did it in Leeds, which was a factory town, and he just proved by working out 5 hours a day that he could become the British champion, the European champion, and then in 1951 he won Mr. Universe. And so, you know, I saw it possible. So he was my inspiration, and I saw him on a big screen playing Hercules, in Hercules movie. So for me it was like two things. It says, wow, if I get a body like that, I win Mr. Universe, and I maybe can get into movies. This is fantastic. So he was my ultimate inspiration. And so when I became Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia, I said to myself, now it's not about me anymore. It's about the millions of people out there that I need to inspire. I need to become the Reg Park now, and I need to inspire other people to get involved in bodybuilding. That's why I love the Lee's story so much, because he watched one time the competition in Columbus here, right? And so yeah, tell that story, because it's a really great story.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned it a little bit earlier that I was here at the age of 20 years old, and I never will forget seeing you come down the aisle. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's Arnold. And I saw Franco win the Mr. Olympia title that year. I think it was 80, 81. And man, here I am today. But let me share another story. You know, as Arnold is talking, I never will forget in 1983, having entered my first Mr. Olympia show, placed third. I hate losing. I don't like to lose. That won the NBC National the first time, the IFBB World Championship the first time around, win Olympia, well, Olympia the third time around. Man, I just don't like losing. But third place wasn't bad for a youngster. And I never will forget the after party at Albert Busak's gym. I'm sitting in the back, me and Shirley. I'm licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself. And Shirley's consoling me as I'm sitting there with my head dropped. It wasn't that bad, guys, I'm kidding. And lo and behold, Arnold comes over. I'm 23 years old at the time. And he says to me, Lee, you look great on stage, you have a fantastic physique. He said, but you have to do something about that posing. You're on another level now. You can't pose like an amateur. So, when we get back to California, I'm going to introduce you to my posing coach. And Arnold made that gesture, and I made sure I had my butt there in his office to meet his posing coach. And I think, and I talk about that now, I think now that what Arnold was also doing was testing me to see if I had it here, to see if I had it here. Was I going to follow through and humbly accept the advice that he was giving me, or the help? But I made sure I was there, because he said to me, Lee, once you get it down as far as your posing routine, you'll be Mr. Olympia. And I want to say thank you for that.
Great story. But I think the bottom line is, he got inspired by watching the Mr. Olympia competition here in Columbus, and there's so many others that get inspired to watch the Arnold Classic or to watch the Olympia in Vegas, and then they become later on Mr. Olympia. So this is the great thing about it. It's everything is to inspire others, and that's what this whole event is all about.
We've got to add another 2 Olympia victories onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Franco Colombo.
Franco Colombo.
Arnold, do you speak Franco?
I'm the only one that really understands him perfectly. It's a mishmash of German, Italian, and Sardinian. And
languages at the same time.
And every so often he throws in. Franco, he's very daring because in the 70s people always said to Franco, said, "Have you taken drugs?" He says, "No, but I experimented with English."
Okay. Sometimes, people, Ralph Miller, sometimes Arnold and I, we talk about him and do our own little languages. We call it Bavarian, Munich. And Ralph is going like this. What are they saying? I speak German, But anyway, when you see these people here, they are not abnormal people, but they're very special. And you have to admit, they are real champions because you see it in the present. The first time I saw Lee, winning the first Olympia, I stood there and I looked at him and I said, yeah, he looks very normal, poses well, he has all the muscles, he's a winner. And you were calm, relaxed. Normally bodybuilders are always like so hyper, like, you never know what
like
to
Phil.
expect. Yeah. But one interesting thing that the first time I was really impressed was in 1969 when Joe Weider used to instigate Arnold in Madison Square Garden. This was happening. And say, Arnold, you got this big guy. And Arnold, who is that guy? There was a guy there, Larry Colbert, you remember? He was a big guy, but he had 17 jackets. And I was spying on him. And he would take a jacket off and another jacket off. And then I said, Arnold, don't listen to Joe. And then I turned over and I see Sergio Olympia. He was so impressive to me because he had a shirt and he had a split here, like a V, and his tricep was humongous. He would come out like this. And I couldn't get my eyes off him. He looked so elegant. His waist was small. He was a weightlifter, the muscles like a rock. And it was very interesting. I want to make the story really short. You won, you beat Sergio, and then he didn't have a room to go to sleep. So we go back to a suite. Joe Weider had a suite there with Arnold and me, and across the street with the other bodybuilders. And Sergio knocks on the door. He knocks on the door. This is now, remember, after the Olympia. And then we go to sleep, who knows, 3 in the morning. And we got Joe Weider 3 in the morning asking Arnold, did you see Sergio's triceps? And Arnold says, yeah, when he came in, I saw it, It's an hour ago. Anyway, we all go to sleep. At 7 in the morning, Sergio was in one of the rooms at the end of the suite. And the door was a little bit open and I heard a noise going like on a bed, going like this, making this strange noise. I said, what's going on over there? We thought Sergio was with some girlfriend there. So I walk over really slow, opening the door, and it was doing triceps. His feet on top of the bed, on a chair, doing these tricep extensions. And I go back to Joe and say, he's doing triceps. And he says, why? And I said to Arnold, he's doing triceps, he's pumping up his triceps. And he says, why? Oh, he's going to come out now with his triceps pumped. And Arnold couldn't understand, but the show was yesterday, I already won, right? And these are like so incredible events with these people, with these champions. They do one crazy thing after another. And in Gold's gym, when the physical gym started in Venice, it was all that things like that. Like in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, we had a smorgasbord restaurant. And, I never knew the stuff. You go in there and he says, you can, says, pile up your plate. You can fill up all you want. And I'm going in a couple of times and out. Bodybuilders will go in and out. Eddie Giuliani and all the guys all eating. The manager wasn't too happy. One day I go with Ken Waller there, and the guy can eat. He went like 6-7 times filling up a mountain of plate. And the manager comes, you cannot come back here anymore. And the guy, but the law, there is no law that I cannot come back. And he says, I'll be here tomorrow morning. So, some people are normal.
The stories. Best part to me about the seminars, especially, is when we get Franco and Arnold together. You guys have some legendary stories with the great Joe Weider. And man, I think you have lit it up over the years, but you guys just used to mess with Joe so much. Arnold, give me one of your favorite Joe stories.
Well, one of my favorite stories I cannot really tell in front of this audience because I don't know if there are kids in here or not. But I mean, but the bottom. Let's go to the second favorite story. Okay? My second favorite story is that Joe, all of a sudden out of nowhere, he was a history buff, and he started reading history things, and then he listened to those history tapes while he was driving his Cadillac, and somehow he got into this whole thing about that he had to grow a mustache because one of his idol leaders from the past had a wonderful mustache coming around here. So but he didn't trim it. It was kind of like hanging over his lips. And so he always was complaining, oh, God dang it, well, I don't know what's wrong. Every time I eat my food, it gets stuck here. And so Franco, he would be over at our apartment, and Franco would say, he says, I can fix this for you, Joe. Yeah. And Joe says, what do you mean you can fix it for me? He says, I have a scissor. I do this all the time. I can fix it. And then Franco gets a scissor. Of course, the scissor is dull. It's not a sharp scissor to cut mustache here.
Because Arnold cut his toenails with it. His toenails, they're so hard they can't see him from bodybuilding that the scissors will break.
It was the worst. So Joe sat there like and totally scared, that Franco is going to poke him with the scissor. And Franco kept saying to him, Joe, you have to be very, very quiet now. Just relax. Because otherwise I stick you with the scissor. And so Joe was very scared, like his lips was like this, doing all these funny things in the lips. And so Franco would cut in, and then he would hold the scissor, and Franco realizes that the scissor doesn't cut the hair. So it was now stuck here. So now the Franco just pulled away, and Joe screamed out and said, ow, what's the matter with you, Italian bastard, eh? I'm telling you, Arnold, I bring the guy over from Sardinia. I built him up, and look at this, a crook, eh? Pulling my mustache, and he was like cursing and screaming, and then Franco says, stay still, Joe, there's one more here that has to be fixed. And then he goes to the next one, and again Joe then pulls away himself, and then he screams again. So that was one of my favorite stories, because Joe was sitting there being tortured by Franco with a scissor. But he was so deep into it, he couldn't get out of it now. He had to finish it so it's a straight line. And so Franco just literally pulled one hair after the next out of his mustache. But I mean, Joe always came back. I mean, he loved all of our humor and all that stuff.
And Arnold was really training with him here and there. We are training there, and we are doing curls on the incline bench, and we are all using 40s, maybe 40 pounds. I take 45, 40, doesn't matter. So Joe Weider, imagine he was a strong guy. He took the maximum weight, like 45s. We all did the curls, and then you go next, and you go next, and Joe Wheeler would run to the abdominal board and do sit-ups, and I would walk over and he'd say, good, good, good. And then he was trying to impress us. I don't have time for you slow guys. You know, he was like that. He loved it to train same weights, the deadlift, you know, the incline, the press, incline and press. And he did that. He was always impressive. I can do what they do. I can do more than you.
I can tell you that if you, in the old days, if you wanted to be, if you're smart and you wanted to be in top shape at the Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe, you always do a photo session with Joe Wheeler the day or two before. Because Joe had a way of inspiring you. It was unlike anything else. You were standing there and he says, okay, let's do an ab shot. And you will be standing there and this is coming on, cough, cough. Okay, more, I need to see more coming out. Come on, cough, exhale, more, more, more. And he would just drive you until you flex so much, but for so many hours, because a photo session would last like 4 hours. And he would be so exhausted after this photo session. And this is why I always say to bodybuilders, practice posing. Because to hold the pose, like for a photo session, it's the most difficult thing that you can imagine. Much more difficult than lifting any of the heavy of the weights. I would be standing there and do a double bicep back pose. And Joe says, I don't see the striation in the lower back. You got to cough. His belief was that if you cough, then you flex the abdominal muscles and that will flex the lower back. And so he would just say, cough, cough, no, give me more flex, come on now, give me the calves are loosening up. No, the leg bicep, flex the leg bicep. And he would be hanging there and he would be shaking. But it was the best because it didn't matter if it was shaking in front of Joe Wheeler or in front of the camera, but where you don't want it to shake is in front of the judges. That's where you don't want to shake, because as soon as you start going like this, shaking a little bit, it looks amateurish and it looks like a Mr. Olympia should not be shaking, period. As someone that is competing in the Mr. Olympia is so high up in the level, should not be shaking. So that's why Frank and I, we always went to Joe and said, Joe, let's take some pictures before the Olympia. And we got together and it was a grind. I mean, we would meet at 11 o'clock in the morning and at 3 in the afternoon. We were standing there flexing and flexing and flexing and sweating and sweating. And you really sweat out all this extra stuff. And so then the next day, you really felt like, wow, I'm so sharp now, I'm so together, and I have practiced my posing and holding the posing. And you imagine you stand there in a 3/4 back pose like this, which is so difficult to do, to suck in your stomach, to get the leg out there, to make the waist look small, and to twist, and he would say, twist more, come on up, the up arm, higher up, making sure to have it high up enough, pull back the wrist, and off the stuff, and you'd be hanging there, and you're cramping up, and then you go and loosen up again. But it's all the day before the competition. So when the competition comes around the next day, you feel so good about yourself, how much you flexed and how you have you posing together. So that was always the smartest thing you can do, is a photo session with Joe Wheeler for his magazine a day before the Olympia.
And things came out at that point. Your weak points came out too. Like, for example, we took pictures. I thought I looked like a monster. You know, Garzella and Jim Caruso and all these photographers. And all of a sudden the pictures show up in Joe Wheeler's building in the office. We go there a few days later. And he would take my pictures, he would look at them, 8x10s, and would throw them like this. He says, okay, looks good. His legs, look at his legs. Why doesn't he flex his legs? Why doesn't he get definition on his leg? Why doesn't he get his legs cut up? And when I went to the Olympia, all I could think of that, and look next to me, Tom Platz, thinking of Joe Wheeler telling me how bad my legs are. And I'm looking at Tom Platz, and I said, I need to correct this. And when I had my knee injury, for example, the leg was also behind it. And I had to stand there and find a way to say, get my good leg in front, look at Tom Platz, I hope he's not right. And don't even see Joe Wheeler down there, but thinking of him, and say, oh, how I put the leg. It's really an experience.
Arnold, with the strong, I can't help but think as Franco is here with us. The strongman is such an integral part of the Arnold weekend, and they recreated your Conan Wheel of Pain, which I thought was the coolest thing I've ever seen in this world. And then we almost took out the front 3 rows with the boulder last night. For those that were here, they had a little problem with one of the guys dropping a 400-pound rock and it rolled off the stage down into the front, which also I thought was pretty cool. But how cool is it that Franco, your good buddy, actually competed in the world's strongest man? I mean, look at the different. Thor Bjornsson, who won, was 7 feet tall and 400 and something pounds. Franco was competing with the world's strongest men back in the day.
Well, you know, to me, I think it was a natural for Franco to compete in that competition because Franco is you know, subhuman. He's not normal. Because I mean, when I met him, I remember in 1965 in Stuttgart in Germany at the Mr. Europe competition, Best Built Man of Europe competition. They also had a European Championship in powerlifting, and there were 2 categories: heavyweight and lightweight. And Franco won the lightweight division hands down. And I watched him powerlift and did the squats. He was this little guy. He was skinny at that time. He was not that huge or muscular or anything like this. When you look at the old photographs, you cannot even believe it. And so Franco would be competing there and he would just outlift everybody. And so then when I decided that I'm going to move after my military service to Munich in 1966, the year later, I said to Franco right then and there at the competition, when we met in 1965, I said, we should train together. Because I always admired strength, and I always wanted to be one of those bodybuilders that also can win a powerlifting competition. And so when I went to Munich, we trained together. And I started winning powerlifting competitions in Germany and in Austria, and it was really amazing. And then I taught Franco bodybuilding, because Franco always said to me, he says, I would like to be Mr. Universe. And I said to him, I want to be one of the strong guys. I said, so can you work with me with my deadlift and bench press and squats and all those things? And so we trained together, we were training partners. That's how we became training partners. And that's why when I then moved to America, the one that I missed the most was Franco. I mean, I said to myself, I can't train here the right way. I got to get him over. So I had to convince Joe Weider that yes, he is a short guy, and yes, he is not as imposing of a figure, but he will, you know, bring over a lot of substance. So why don't you bring him over from Germany? And Franco was living in Germany, in Munich, and so 9 months later, Franco arrived over here. We convinced Joe. You know, he was confused with the names. He called him Francesco Franco, and then he got, you know, all kinds of different names. He forgot always Franco's name, and they showed him always photographs. But then when Franco came over, he was very happy, Joe, that he brought Franco over. So for Franco, then when he was over here in America, and he started competing in bodybuilding and winning Mr. Universe notice, his strength continued going up. And I mean, I remember watching him with 175 pounds, doing 3 reps with 730 pounds in a deadlift. I mean, think about that. I mean, I couldn't even lift it 1 rep. And so here was this guy lifting it 3 reps. And so the same was in the bench press, and I was doing 3 reps with 500 and 3 reps, you know, with 600 in the squats. And it was just unbelievable weights that he was lifting, and lateral raises with 85s and 90 pounds. And I heard the only other person that ever did that was Marvin Eder, that was like the smaller guy, but he was just enormously strong from New York. And so Franco was just casually doing his lateral, perfect movement with the kicking in the back up like that for his rear deltoid with 85 and 90 pounds. And I remember this guy, Steve Maginian, who was one of the strong guys in Gold's Gym. He always goes up to 350 pounds behind the neck press on the bench, very strict. So Franco would sit down and then work in with him, and Franco was doing 8 reps with 315 pounds behind the neck press. I mean, it's like unbelievable weight. So when they came up with this idea to have the world's strongest man competition, and like for instance, one of the lifts was a refrigerator, to carry a refrigerator. And you know, there was all kinds of, and then there was bicycle riding and all kinds of
other things that, as soon as Franco is going to have no problem there whatsoever. And sadly, Franco then injured his knee that year, because otherwise I think he would have been in the top 3, or maybe he would have won. I have no idea. But I mean, there was a hole in the ground, and Franco stepped into that hole with a 600-pound refrigerator on his back, and then twisted his ankle and injured his knee and ripped his knee apart. So it was I just always thought that there was no one around at this weight category that could beat Franco.
Arnold, you give it up to Franco. He was strong as a and more impressive, he did it half the size of the other guys. I thought there was no categories in the world's strongest men. It was just the world's strongest
No,
men.
absolutely. But the reason why I said, he's kind of like subhuman, because when we were down on Venice Beach, I used to do, chin-ups there on this chin-up bar. And then Franco said, we should do some abs also. And I said, there is no abdominal bench here. Because it was kind of just a few pieces of equipment in those days in 1968, 69. And so Franco says, no, this is how you do it. And he would just hook in with his toes on the chin-up bar, but with no shoes on. And he would just, imagine the pain to have your body weight hanging on your toes on a chin-up bar like this, and then he would do sit-ups like this, doing 30 rep sit-ups, hanging upside down like that. So only a monkey can do that, right? So this is why I said, Franco, you're not human, and there's something off. I gotta go to Sardinia and study this culture a little bit here, where it came from originally, and what was the kind of the mixture and stuff like that. Because it was totally abnormal, the kind of things that Franco would do, a bounce on his stomach through the gym on the dirty floor. He would come in and he would do crazy things like that.
Arnold, Phil Heath tied your record just 2 years ago at 7 Olympia titles. Went for number 8 this past year, and unfortunately just came up short. What advices would you give Phil for this year? Come back, try to reclaim the title, give it up after 7?
Well, no, I mean, everyone feels different about this. I think that if Phil feels that he's at the height of his career, and if he feels like there's another year or another 2 years in him, I definitely would come back with vengeance. Because I've watched Phil over the years, and there's no one that can touch him when he's on. And I have to say that this is what I was talking about earlier. It was not you, I think there was something, and like I said, it's almost impossible to hit that mark every single time. And so I wouldn't even be too hard on yourself. It's just one of those things. That's, as I said, the guys are so close to in shape. They're such champions. There's so many champions in the Olympia that when you lose, that just means that you were off a little bit. And Phil was off a little bit, I thought, and so someone else took the opportunity and took the title. And so what you do is you say, okay, you analyze what was it, and what did it do different. You analyze it, and then you go there and you train like hell for this competition. And you pose like hell. And even if it takes 2 hours of posing a day, it makes no difference. And if it's 1 hour of practicing the vacuum every day in every conceivable position, that is what I would do. And I would make sure that the record is clear there so that you can go on stage. And I said last year, I said, I'll be back. And I'm back.
So Phil, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything. I would never do that to you. Arnold's got to go.
Can you believe that? I love this when the handlers come and tap you on the shoulder and say it's lunchtime. Machines don't eat, you idiots. Jesus. Good point. No, but anyway, so Phil, yeah, I will go all out. I know that you have your own thoughts. Whatever you decide, it makes no difference, because it only makes a difference to you, because we all
know that you've won so many times and that you're a true inspiration to all of us, to me and to millions and millions of others out there. So that I know for sure. So I mean, this is only for your personal thing, you know, and this is, you know, that's why I say if I will be you, because that's the way I am. I gotta go back and clean house. Right? That's just so you can walk away from this for the rest of your life and say, I did it, you know, and no one can shit all over me. It's not gonna happen, you know. So this is it's an ego thing. It's an ego thing. And so I hope that you. But I would recommend, of course, that he goes to one of the Arnold's classics first for warm up.
You think?
Right? Yeah. I think so. Do you think so, guys? One of Arnold's classics, win the competition, because that's how I won the Olympia. I won here in Columbus, Ohio against Sergio Liver. It was a neutral competition. It was organized by the AAU. I had nothing to do with the AAU and with the World Weightlifting Federation. Nothing. So I came to the stage, posed, Sergio Liver was there, and he posed, Dave Draper, all those guys competed, Franco competed, and then Franco won his weight category and I won mine. And then I won the overall title, and that gave me the momentum then to beat Sergio in the Mr. Olympia 14 days later. So this was kind of a rhythm thing. And first I beat Reg Park in London at the Mr. Universe contest in 1970. A day later I came here, won against Sergio Liver, and then 14 days later went. So it's about a rhythm thing. So we of course would love to have you because you're such a great asset. And, you know, you have such a huge fan base, so we always would love to have any of the Mr. Olympia guys come and compete in the Arnold Classic. But I think that's for selfish reasons, but for yourself, also I think there is something there to be said, to just compete, you know, if it's the European one in the fall, whatever it is, and to just get that rhythm going, clean house, and then just come in as any Mr. Olympia, 2 weeks later. Which is, I think, usually in October or so, right? Or end of September, whatever it is in Vegas.
Ronnie's saying that he's one of the few that actually won the Arnold and the Olympia in the same year, and it's not easy to do. It's certainly a road, but if anybody could do it, I'm sure it's Phil.
But I mean, let's be honest, what is easy to do? I mean, to win the Mr. Olympia is not easy. To win the Arnold Classic is not easy. To be the top in the world in anything is not easy. So you're absolutely correct. It's not easy. But I don't think that's why we are doing this stuff, to do something that's easy now. Maybe we just walk working somewhere in the post office if we want to just take it easy.
I think one of the things that we're all here talking about is that we're saying like winning these shows is like impossible, but then you break that down and you compete at it and you tell yourself that I am possible. I am possible. I will do the work, and I think that's what I'm processing at this moment, just being around all these amazing athletes, all these amazing legends. I have posters of everyone up here, including you, Brandon. I still have you, because I was there when you turned pro. I watched Brandon in his hotel room getting ready for the Nationals. So I've been a fan of everybody. But as far as me, coming back, I actually talked to Bob Chick about this briefly, and I said, think about even an Arnold Classic. I enjoyed my time in Columbus. Never won that one. Did the one in Spain. Enjoyed that very much. I think Bob knows why.
Oh,
yeah. But
Was it the squeaking in the hotel room at 3 a.m.?
no, there's a guy with a long ponytail, that guy. That was some good times at that show. But overall, I mean, I'm just, absorbing all of this positive energy, and then also with the fans. But I think it's, necessary for me to even reflect and to think, gosh, man, 7 years is a long time. It's a long time and a lot of work. And it's definitely enabled me to kind of take a step back and go back in the gym. I've been in the gym, this will be week number 5 since my surgery October of last year. And, we've all been injured in some way. Everybody up here, we've all been injured in some way, whether we share it on social media or not. Some is more prevalent, than others. But I can say that, if you follow me on social media, I've been posting a lot of cool things, and one of the DVDs that I was posting up was of this man right here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Comeback. So who knows? I'm just really excited to be healthy and back in the gym, and I do have that fire. I just want everybody to know it has not left. It doesn't leave. It'll never leave.
Thank you, Phil. Speaking of coming back, Governor, we enjoy that time. You've got a very tight schedule where you've got to get going, even though machines don't eat. You've got to watch everybody else eat. So I assume that we will see you back here, sir?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, this is really terrific. I'm so happy that we have a packed house here today, and it's so many people are interested in listening to the champions, because this is really where the action is. I mean, if you have any questions, I think you're doing such a great job and talk about the things that the audience likes to hear. You really, drill down on the various different subjects. So we are very proud of you to have you as part of this whole thing, because you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate it, you have nothing. And so I think the way we communicate about bodybuilding, the way we inspire other people, I think this is absolutely the most important thing. And this is why we make this into a fitness festival, because we want to, this bodybuilding be the center of it, and then everything else happens from there. That just came from a pump and run competition that they opened up, and they did the start. And the ballroom dancing, like I said, and there's the world's strongest man competition, arm wrestling championships, powerlifting, weightlifting, women's weightlifting. I mean, we have everything here. And the most important thing to us is children. And because we have the pavilion, the fairgrounds over there, where the pavilions are, where all the children are competing, because the children, this is the future. And everything that I always say kids are the best investment. And so we want to invest in our kids. We want to groom those kids to grow up and to be great athletes and to be participating. So this is what it's all about. So I promise you, I'll be back. Thank you. I said I'll be back. So with Kai Green, we're going to be back and having a panel discussion here, because this is, of course, for Comic-Con, and we're going to have a great discussion. This is, Kai Green is a great artist, and there will be another artist there that is a power lifter. Yes. Yeah, so why don't you say that?
Doug Mankey, who draws the interiors for Batman and Detective Comics 1000, will be here also. Both will be sketching on the stage live, and Arnold will be taking questions, and we'll talk a little bit about what it's like to be in the entertainment industry and also in the fitness industry. So it should be exciting, and I hope you all can come out and see a little bit more of Arnold and see a little bit more of Kai.
Why didn't you say that right away? I mean, it's so easy to just say it. Okay, anyway, have fun. We'll see you then at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye. See you.
All right, we still got some great stuff with the champs here. I tell you, you can't say enough about Arnold. It's just Arnold. I love what he brings. I love what he brings to the table every time. He's simply the greatest. We talked about your ambassadors, as we talked about, Lee. But it's the stories. I just love the old stories. Jay, doesn't it make you want to wish that you grew up in that era? I mean, like when you hear the stories of Arnold and Franco and Joe Weider. You had your own interaction with Joe Weider, obviously. All of us have on this stage. But give me some of you got any good old Joe stories today?
Joe was a huge, someone that really, he convinced me to move to California to further my career and be closer to the magazines at the time, which was the only opportunity we had for visibility. And, he told me from day one, I remember, I was able to walk in Joe Weider's office at 21 years old. I just won a regional show up in California, and I did that show living in Massachusetts because I wanted to get publicity. I figured, okay, the magazines would shoot me and it'd be closer to there, and maybe the competition would be a little tougher. I won that show, and I got a meeting actually to get face to face with Joe Weider, and I remember I was like trying to decide what to wear when I walked in his office, you know, and I had this really tight Hanes t-shirt on, probably a size too small. And I walked in his office, V-neck, you know, I had my chest sticking out, I was 21. And Joe didn't even really, you know, it was kind of like he was sitting at his desk, and I walked in and he looked right at me and was like, didn't even say, hey, I'm Joe Weider, didn't shake anything. He said, who'd you shoot with? And I said, no, I shot with this guy or that guy. And he says, I want to offer you a contract. And I was just like, wow, like, this is Joe Weider telling me this. And, you know, I had seen the Arnold, you know, magazine articles about Joe Weider, and you know, this was the guy. I mean, if Joe Weider put his mark on you, you were it, right? So, you know, that was really my first encounter with Joe Weider, to be honest, and I felt privileged. We became friends, and he advised me in business. And, you know, actually after 2001, after I lost to Ronnie, controversially, I went to Joe's office and I actually got thrown out of his office because I was arguing with him. But we got
Joe actually throw you out?
well, he said, I've tried enough, you need to leave. And I said, well, I'm leaving anyway. So it was, you know, we had a great relationship, but you know, obviously, you know, we had opinions, and, you know, he was a huge mentor to me, and you know, I really use that as a kind of a benchmark in my career, to be involved with Joe Weider and the organization, and of course, you know, the Olympia stage, and so much history. But yeah, it makes you go back, it makes you think about that, because we all see the, you know, Arnold and Franco training together, and you know, we know how strong Franco was, and they created the shorter division, Mr. Olympia, and, you know, Arnold was the man, right? I mean, he became what he became, you know, it's like Arnold Classic, and, you know, movie star, governor, all that stuff. But like, everyone aspires to be something like that, be that visible. But you know, he's been a huge inspiration, as Joe kind of created that opportunity by bringing him here.
Ronnie Coleman, you have actually been in the position that Phil was in. You lost the Olympia to Jay, and then tried to come back and win it. Not a lot of people have been in that position. Lee, you were thankfully never in that position. And Arnold was really never in that position either, as he actually retired and then came back to win his seventh Olympia, but he never lost the title. What advice could you give to Phil? What were you feeling in that next year of, well, should I come back, or should I just hang it up? Or where were you after you lost the title?
I was kind of like Arnold, like, I'm gonna get my title back, and I'm gonna give it my all, you know. And wasn't nothing in the world really gonna stop me from doing that. So, of course, I'm gonna tell Phil to go and get the title back, because that's, you know, what I had in my heart, you know, at the time. So, he got to go and get it back.
This ain't up for debate.
Yeah, there ain't no question about it. You got to go and get it back.
Lee?
I just hope he does. I think he can do it.
Now, Lee, you know, like I say, you were never in that position, but obviously you've got great insight and always great advice for the champs. But you're Phil Heath. What do you do?
Well, you know, Phil is healthy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the joints, and he's, you know, he's still 100% there. You know, that being the case, as Arnold was saying, man, you know, it's connect his heart and his mind. And if you want to go get it, he can go get it. It's his to have. I mean, you know, I love the fact that year after year, Phil was able to master the peak. It's hard to peak. It's hard, you know, some guys missed it, and I'm not gonna name them. I've seen certain guys that have the physique that was phenomenal, but they never learned how to peak. Everybody here, we understand the peak. And once you understand it, you know the way back to get it. Now, Brandon is gonna be an awesome force to reckon with, because guess what? He now knows the peak. And so, with that being said, there's gonna be some stuff going on between these two guys. I can see it happening right now. No, I can see it happening.
All right, Phil. what you got, man? Come on, champ.
He'll get off the park.
Right. Come on, champ. Let's, you know what? Hang on. we always, listen, we love to hear from the fans, Phil, you know that. Listen, we've been doing this for many, many years. So, you know, we're just gonna leave it up to the fans, I think. I think that's probably the fair way to do it, right? Who wants to see Phil Heath back on the Olympia stage? That's it, it's official. He's in. Done deal.
I guess I can't say anything.
No, Phil did not win the Mr. Olympia 7 years in a row by accident. You don't do that you don't win it once by accident.
Certainly not.
Maybe once you could by good luck, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he knows the way.
Well, as we go way back, Phil, you know me, I'm not gonna mince words, I gotta throw this out there. Did Sean Roden win the Olympia, or did you lose the Olympia? That's a good one, huh?
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, they chose who they want.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I still think that, I mean, this is factually speaking. They had that whole People's Champ thing and stuff like that, right? Well, he didn't even win that. So part of me kind of feels like I left the door open and he got what he deserved. You know, I'm processing a little bit of it still because at the end of the day, I know in my heart I'm a better bodybuilder. I just know it. I have more impressive body parts and those things, but I don't have to talk about his physique, put him down or anything like that. That's not what that's about. I wasn't at my best, and sometimes, you know, I feel like as an Olympic champion, you are judged with a different type of magnifying lens than the people you go up against. And I know that's kind of hard to kind of conceptualize as a fan, but Jay's gone through it, Ronnie's gone through it. Like, you win, and then they'll judge you against you. And then there is the field, and that is true. Same with social media. I see everything people say. They'll say, this guy is a legend, this guy is this. They use these terms very loosely. But then if they use that same lens that they use on me next to the guys that are on stage, it's a little different. And that's what makes the judging very difficult, because they have to use that lens for all the guys. So for me, it's like the lens that I use, that I know was used on Ronnie. I mean, they picked on Ronnie too. You know, it's hard to see the same person over and over again. And sometimes people will make things into something that they're not. Jay came in and did his thing. I was on that stage when Jay lost in 08. I got third at my first Olympia light Amy. So now that I know that he did that, I'm very happy.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, but I was there on that stage, and that was Jay that lost. He lost that. We all knew it. And that opened the door for Deshaun, because Deshaun beat me on this very stage in Columbus earlier that year. He won the Arnold Classic. But I was on that stage at the Olympia, and I was like, well, I didn't make sense of that. And then Jay came back the following year and kicked all our asses. I mean, he came off a damn spaceship, he did his job, and he booked it. I mean, it was bad. Like, it was, I remember seeing him, and I'm thinking, like, what did we weigh? And I know that was the first year that Jay worked with Hani, and I mean, the guy's already white as a house, right? But it was like very, very cartoonish. And I remember thinking, well, we're all gonna get whooped today. And I remember people in the industry, writers, journalists, like real journalists, not these bloggers that we see on YouTube that you guys follow, like real journalists that went to school for this stuff, wrote this man off. They wrote him off. Oh, he's finished this and that. I read all that stuff. And I read it about Ronnie too when he got hurt. And they wrote it. People were quick to see you go up, and they were quick to kind of hit you. And then Jay shoved it in their faces. And then it was like, they don't ever remember him losing now. They don't remember it. They don't bring it up anymore. Because he won, and he won the following year. He actually beat me on it. I lost, you know, in 2010. So I think what's really neat about me being on the stage, I didn't compete, I competed during Ronnie's era, but I never stepped on the Olympia stage during that time, thank God, because I did not want to get my ass whooped like that. But it was interesting to see Ronnie win number 7, number 8, and even the transition when Jay came in, and then see the transition when Dexter came in, and be on that same stage, and then see Jay get his back and have my turn. It's interesting to see, and you start understanding like what they did go through, because I've been very fortunate. I probably have the best job in bodybuilding, or best career, because I was able to have their phone numbers and visit with them on tour and kind of just be a sponge. And I used that to win those 7 Sandowns. So I will say collectively, I know I have what it takes. I have to weigh out every option there is to make sure that, kind of like what Arnold said about Lee Haney, there's other things in life as well that we as human beings, as men, as bodybuilders, that I don't want to become just very one-dimensional. I think sometimes it's a good thing to have loss because it allows you to reflect. But I didn't lose that damn show. I lost, but I didn't lose. And I'll probably be able to share more of that if and when I come back and do other things outside of bodybuilding as well. Because sometimes, I guess, I realized that there was a lot to learn, not just about the physique. I know how to train, but what else am I good at? And that's what I'm really focusing on right now, is what else am I good at? What else can I do to connect with the world without bodybuilding? Because that's what Arnold did, that's what a lot of us are doing right now. We're still connecting with the world, not having to compete. So I'm trying to do both. So I appreciate all the love, and I will say, like, I hope I get a copy of this video, because if I can get a copy of it, I probably will come back, because I will want to replay this. Because there's a lot of love and appreciation in the video, and I appreciate it.
I'm gonna have a copy of it in about 5 minutes, okay? Because I'd love to have you back on stage, man. I tell you what, it's weird. I'll be honest with you, man. We talked about this. You know, me and Phil are very close friends. We have been for many years. It'd be weird now without you on stage. It's been the last, 10 years. So, yeah. So it's a little funky when you think about it, but. In the same manner, things do move on. There was an era, Lee, where you were there and people couldn't imagine the Olympia stage without Lee Haney. And Ronnie, same thing, and you dominated that stage for nearly a decade. Jay, the most, one of the most popular, if not the most popular Olympia athlete of all time, especially being in Las Vegas in your backyard. And you talk about fans coming out. And again, we've talked about this because we tour all the time and do many interviews, but the loudest ovation I've ever heard, still to this day, was when you won the Olympia title, Jay, for the first time. That place exploded. And I'm one of the, other than you guys, honestly, I'm the only other person on the stage. So obviously you can see the people and, kind of feel their presence. And it felt like the entire place came forward like 10 feet. And nobody left. Nobody left. That was the most cool, one of the coolest things I've ever seen, was that usually people start piling out, when Ronnie was just winning these things year after year, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. It's like, well, Ronnie's gonna win again. All right, let's get to the buffet before they get filled up. And all of a sudden Jay won, and the place exploded, and 10,000 people stood and stayed there waiting to hear, your reflections on winning the title. That was a great moment, Jay.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I was opposite, like I mentioned, Ronnie Coleman was, I view him as one of the greatest of all time. And I looked up to him a lot. It wasn't the same once he stepped away from the stage, although it's, I always talked about Phil Heath from day one meeting him. And, of course, Lee, I stepped in, I started bodybuilding the year Lee Haney retired. So I looked at him, and I looked at Rich Gaspari, I looked at those battles, right? And, bodybuilding was just something I loved so much, but, for me I remember Ronnie Coleman called me on my first victory, Night of Champions, my first pro win, and told me after prejudging me, he said, congratulations, and I didn't understand because the show wasn't over yet, and he says he won, so it kind of ruined it for me, but at the same time, it kind of was nice. I went to the night show and I won the show. Little did you know, a year later, we'd be battling it out in a controversial year of almost winning, and then of course, he's going back and forth with me, and we would tour together, and we had a lot of great stories. We trained together, and but Ronnie was like, all he wanted to do was work out. We would get off the planes and Ronnie would be like, all right, where's the gym? And I'd be like, damn, I just want to sleep in the hotel, but if I want to beat this guy, I gotta get to the gym. So, I remember it used to be midnight, and Ronnie always traveled. He had this schedule, man, where it's like every Friday it was like leg day or whatever. So he'd get off the plane, and I remember he'd get off the plane in like purple tights and like boots. And I'm like, this guy just flew on the plane in tights. His legs, he's walking through the airport, and everyone's like, heads are turning. Like, man, I can't believe it. I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, if I want to beat this guy, I guess I gotta go to the gym and train with him.
Or get purple tights.
Yeah, right. And I remember going and we'd start the squats, and Ronnie loved those squats. And it was like, okay, warm up, 1 plate on each side, and it was 2, and it was 3, and I'm like, shit, this guy's gonna keep going. I'd bail after 4, and Ronnie'd still go to 5 and 6, and he'd sit in the corner and nod his head, and the music was playing loud. It was always rap music, the videos, and and I'd sit there and just, all right, I bailed, and Ronnie can keep going, and man, I thought, how am I ever gonna beat this guy? And so when I did beat him, it was just like, man, I just beat my idol, so I kind of was in a weird place where I wasn't expecting, the feeling. I was like so excited, but at the same time, like, man, I kept him from getting 9, breaking the record, and I know how much bodybuilding meant to him, and I knew how much Mr. Olympia title meant to him, and so it was kind of a mixed feeling. My respect to him was just tremendous, and still to this day, I wouldn't have been as great of a Jay Cutler bodybuilder as if it wasn't for Ronnie Coleman. So I always I didn't think I was going to win every time I went against him, that's for sure.
And so did I. So you know how I feel when I lost to you. For real. You're kind of like me. You kind of like think the guy who came before you was the greatest of all time. Well, the guy who was the greatest of all time to me was the guy sitting next to me, Lee Haney. And of course, I still feel that same way. And people come to me all the time and ask me, who do you think the greatest of all time? And I still say, Lee Haney is the greatest of all time. And I always people don't remember, but when I first got into sport of bodybuilding, Lee was coming up on the end of his career. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I was working security when he was going for his 8th title. And I'm like, man, if I can get backstage and just take this picture with Lee Haney, this would be the best day of my whole life. And somehow or another, I was fortunate enough to get backstage and take a picture with him before he went on stage to win his 8th title. I don't know if you remember that or not, but the worst thing about that is that picture never came out. So it was the greatest day of my life, and then also at the same time, the saddest day of my life. And I can remember now when I lost Jay, and I'm backstage, and I'm wallowing in my pity, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm done with this sport. Yeah, I didn't have that heart, I didn't have that desire, and I didn't have that burning desire to come back. And I was thinking that I'm not even going to show up to the show that I was supposed to compete in, 2 weeks later after the Olympia, where I always went on the tour. I'm like, I'm done with the tour, I ain't doing this thing, Jay just beat me. And Lee Haney walks over to me and says, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm not doing too good. I'm kind of like done with this sport. And he says to me, nah, man, you ain't done. He's like, what are you gonna do with your life? At the time, I didn't have anything else to do. But Lee said, what you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, you gonna continue to bodybuild. And I was thinking about, it was the end of my life, well, it wasn't the end of my life, it was the end of my career. And this guy who here topped me back on the stage. I was thinking about jumping off a ledge or something. But Lee Haney is the one who brought me back to compete in Olympia next year. And I'm saying that to say to Phil, you want a way to connect with the fans, get back on stage and get your title back. That's how you connect with them. That's how you write the next chapter of your life also.
Jay, you beat your guy to get the title. Phil, you beat your guy to get the title. Lee, nobody beat you. So that's just the way it goes. But let me get to the new guy. So Brandon, what do you, I mean, you've been able to be on this stage with these Olympians, Arnold and Franco, and you grab a microphone for Brandon. I mean, what do you make out of this? I mean, you won the Arnold last night. You're out there with all these the Olympians, legends of the game.
Man, it's been amazing, man. I have mad respect for everybody on this stage. I've been able to fortunately follow everyone, and everyone here has been encouraging to me at some point. So, man, it's just surreal to me to be here. And like I said, I'm at a loss for words. These guys right here, they've done it all, man. They've been to the mountaintop, and I can only dream of being in their likeness. So, appreciate you guys. Thanks for what you're doing with the sport, and still being around to encourage, lift us up, and for the better of the sport, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, sure.
You know what's different about Brandon? I had a chance to talk to and get to meet his beautiful wife and his family. You got 4 kids, Brandon? Now that's powerful. And see, when Brandon steps on the stage, when he steps in the gym to prepare for a show, it's not just about him. He understands that his baby's got to have diapers, educational funds. He's got to take care of his family. He's got to take care of his wife. He have a huge why to be successful. A huge why that when he hit the stage, he got to be at his very, very best. And I'll tell you this, that makes one of the most dangerous and one of the most powerful athletes in the world. That's why whoever's going to be in the Olympia this year will be in trouble when they face Brandon. He don't just hit the stage for himself, it's for his family.
Oh, thank you, Dave. It was very positive, as always. Brandon, you know why you're on the stage today with these Olympians? Because you belong on this stage with these Olympians. I think all things happen for a reason. There's a reason that you're here right now. Because this wasn't really scheduled in the event. You know, we had the legends, the Olympians, you know, and here comes Brandon. I'm like, oh, great, you know, we got Brandon just won last night. But divine intervention, Phil, that's what this is, all right? This is a sign of things to come here. Because I firmly believe that you have everything it takes to be an Olympian champion.
Well, I definitely believe it. I definitely feel it. And it's an honor just to hear it, man. It's much respect to you. Much respect for everybody that's been supporting me and sending that message my way. I've been hearing a lot lately. And like it would definitely be a dream come true. Like I said, when I saw my man, the impossible happening around him, that's when my world about it really opened up. And I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I said, I got to get it. I just saw the impossible happen. There's no way I thought my man was getting beat. So
That makes 2 of you.
Yeah, the world opened up to me. And I'm like, man, Jay did that. He did that. That's crazy. So that's when I decided, you know, this is going to be not a hobby anymore. This is going to be serious. And nobody told me, you know, that this would be such a battle. But what that instilled in me, nobody can take it from me, no matter what I went through. So I'm here as a testament. You guys put something in your heart, hey, put the blinders on and go for it. You're going to go through the storm, you're going to go through the rain. But at the end of the day, hey, if it's so, it's so. So, like I said, I'm fighting. Whatever it takes, man. I want to be a champion. I want to walk in these guys' shoes, man. And I appreciate your support, guys. Thank you so much.
Brandon, here's what we know. So we know by audience vote that Phil is coming back this year at the Olympia stage. Right? So I want you to look right at Phil, okay? And I want you to send a message to Phil that you will absolutely destroy him and kick his ass if he even bothers to get on the Olympia stage next to you this year.
No. I desire to compete against Phil. I mean, I desire him to come back because man, Phil, I've looked up to Phil forever, man. And like, he was just right ahead of me. And like, I made an email account like Brandon's Gifted, and then Phil came out and they started calling him Gifted, right? So I was like, man, they snatched that from me, you know? Because it was just my original thought. But I was amazed, man, I was amazed. He kind of led the way, and like, he reached the mountaintop, and it was like, man, and it's just, I just watched him, how he handled it, because the industry changed. Right when he was transitioning, just completely different. So he had to deal with the internet and everything, and a lot of people hard on him. Like, man, I just don't understand, man. Because I wasn't a fan of the internet stuff either. I wouldn't have handled it any better. So he kind of set the example, and I know everybody was kind of critical on that process, but man, I just had nothing but mad respect for his tenacity, his desire to win, and the way he handled himself like a champion. And me and Phil, on a personal level, he was always just cool and humble. And I just feel like we really connect in that way. And like I said, I just had mad respect for him. So I would love to see him compete again. I love to compete against him again, man. I mean, that'd be a dream come true, because that's my desire. I've been chasing this guy, I feel like, forever. And for having just to leave, it'd be like, it's really gonna be a disappointment if I don't get to step on stage.
I challenge him, like right now.
Hey,
That's just saying.
hey, like I say, Phil, if it's in your heart, man, if it's in your heart, it'll be an honor. It'll be an honor, brother.
Wait, give me some Mr. T or something, man.
Come on, man. It's
Say
an
food.
honor, man. It wouldn't nothing motivate me more. Nothing motivate me more, bro.
Well, Brandon, you're going to be, congratulations again on your Arnold Classic championship. You put another one in the books, and obviously going into the Olympia this year. It's going to be a wide open show, I believe. Phil, obviously, you were very dominant in that 7 years, and if you come back, I'm sure that's going to be the case again. With Sean Rowan as the champ, and I say this with all due respect, I think the field is opened up now, where, it's not an assurance. When Ronnie was in the middle of his streak, when Lee was in the middle of his streak, nobody was coming in there. Nobody was coming in there. It was just done. It was a done deal. You know what I mean? It's like, Lee shows up 100, it's over. This year, I think the field is open. I think I think there's a lot of guys kind of thinking they got a shot to take the champ out. Turning champ, might be coming back, at least according to the audience he is. So I think this is going to be a great Olympia. As all Olympians are great, we'll truly see who the best of the best is. But we're going to let these guys get out of here. I'm sure they're hungry and carb depleted, and Ryan's probably got a surgery to get to. So yeah, buddy. Yes, he does. Ronnie multitasks, man. He just puts everything into one. He schedules a surgery in Columbus, and then he can go back home. Good stuff. How about a big hand for all our champions here today? Give it up for the Olympians, Phil Heath, Jake Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, and of course the great Lee Haney.
Look at that one. Thank you.